are flood-proof.
South Korea is building the world's first floating city.
Because now with the whole urbanization, with climate change, we really need new solutions.
Floating technology, we need it now at scale and affordable.
By 2050, you might wake up in an apartment where the view isn't a skyline. It's the endless horizon of the open ocean. No streets, no subways, just walkways connecting solar-powered neighborhoods that rise and fall with the tide. This isn't a cruise ship. It's home. And for hundreds of millions living in flood-prone coastal cities, it might be the only way to survive. Floating cities are no longer science fiction. They're a blueprint, and construction has already begun. The problem and urgency. Two numbers set the stage: 2 degrees Celsius and 1 meter. They might seem small, the kind of figures you'd overlook in a weather report. But in climate science, they are seismic. If global temperatures rise by just 2 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels, sea levels are projected to climb by 1 meter or more before the end of this century. That single vertical meter is enough to redraw the world's coastlines, erasing neighborhoods, farmlands, and entire cultures. Cities like New York, Shanghai, Mumbai, and Miami would face chronic flooding, storm surges, and eventual partial submersion. Low-lying nations such as the Maldives, Tuvalu, and Kiribati could disappear entirely, not in a distant geologic future, but within the lifetimes of today's children. The ocean would not politely lap at the edges. It would swallow them. Right now, 40% of the world's population lives within 100 kilometers of a coast. That's over 3 billion people whose homes, jobs, and histories are tied to the water's edge. By 2050, climate-driven migration could displace more than 300 million of them. This isn't just a housing problem. It's a cultural, economic, and humanitarian crisis. Entire ports, industries, and food systems would need to relocate. The question becomes urgent. Where do they all go? For some architects, engineers, and visionaries, the answer is as radical as it is elegant. They don't move inland. They move onto the water. Floating cities, amphibious housing, and adaptive marine infrastructure are no longer the stuff of science fiction. They are emerging blueprints for survival in a century defined by rising seas. Vision of floating cities. Floating cities aren't just lifeboats. They are bold statements about humanity's ability to adapt and thrive in the face of a rising ocean. These aren't makeshift rafts or emergency shelters. They're designed to be self-sustaining, climate-resilient communities where people can live, work, grow food, and generate their energy without relying on land. The vision is as much about innovation as it is about survival. What's striking is the diversity of its champions. The United Nations has hosted dedicated summits on floating urbanism, bringing together engineers, policymakers, and environmentalists from across the globe. The goal: to turn what once sounded like science fiction into actionable, scalable reality. Governments of low-lying island nations, such as the Maldives, Tuvalu, and the Marshall Islands, aren't waiting for distant promises. They're actively funding prototypes as a matter of national survival. Then there's the private sector, architectural firms, marine engineers, and real estate investors. See floating cities as the next frontier, not just in urban design, but in economic opportunity. For them, the ocean is not a threat, but a vast, untapped canvas. One of the most publicized concepts is Oceanix, a modular floating city design backed by UN Habitat. Built from interlocking hexagonal platforms, Oceanix can house 10,000 people in a single cluster, complete with green rooftops, vertical farms, solar panels, and wind turbines. Its infrastructure is designed to recycle water, process waste sustainably, and grow food right where people live. It's more than a survival strategy. It's an architectural revolution. Reimagining not just where we live, but how cities interact with the planet itself. How floating cities work. At the heart of a floating city lies its foundation, a modular platform, often shaped like a giant hexagon or square, engineered to link seamlessly with others like pieces of a massive living puzzle. These interlocking platforms form the city's skeleton, allowing it to grow, adapt, and even reconfigure over time. Each platform is built to float, using cutting-edge materials such as buoyant concrete or advanced marine composites, designed to withstand decades of exposure to saltwater and storms. Beneath the surface, flexible mooring lines anchor the structures to the seabed, keeping them stable while still allowing a gentle rise and fall with the waves. A design that works with the ocean rather than against it. Above water, the platforms are divided into residential, commercial, and agricultural zones, just like a land-based city. But with space used more efficiently, energy needs are met entirely through renewable sources. Vast arrays of solar panels line rooftops. Offshore wind turbines spin steadily in the breeze, and tidal generators harness the rhythmic pull of the sea. Fresh water comes from desalination systems, turning seawater into clean drinking water. Waste management is circular. Organic waste is composted or converted into biogas for energy, while recyclables are processed locally to reduce dependence on outside supply chains. And food? Many designs incorporate aquaponics farms, ingenious systems where fish tanks and hydroponic gardens are interconnected. Fish waste fertilizes vegetables, while the plants naturally filter the water, creating a closed-loop food source right on the platform. Some proposals even include underwater kelp farms, providing not only food, but also carbon-absorbing ecosystems. This is not just about enduring life at sea. It's about thriving, building communities that are independent, sustainable, and deeply connected to the ocean they float in. Key takeaway number 1. They're not just cities that float, they're entire ecosystems. A truly successful floating city isn't just a cluster of buildings resting on water. It must function like a living organism, carefully balanced and self-reliant. Every system, from power to food to waste management, has to connect in a way that sustains both the human community and the marine environment beneath it. First, it must produce its energy cleanly, reliably, and without depending on mainland grids. Solar panels, wind turbines, and tidal generators work in tandem, ensuring a steady supply of power day and night. The energy produced fuels everything from household needs to water desalination systems, all while keeping the city's carbon footprint close to zero. Second, the city must recycle its waste in a closed loop. Organic matter is composted or converted into biogas. Plastics and metals are processed locally, and wastewater is purified for reuse. Nothing should simply be thrown away, because in the middle of the ocean, away doesn't exist. Third, a portion of its food supply must be grown right there. This could be through rooftop gardens, aquaponic systems combining fish and vegetables, or vertical farms integrated into the architecture. These food systems not only feed residents, but also cut the need for supply ships, making the city more independent. Finally, a floating city must maintain biodiversity in the waters around it. Artificial reefs, kelp forests, and protected zones can attract marine life, turning the city's perimeter into a thriving underwater ecosystem. When done right, human presence can enhance local ocean health rather than harm it. This isn't a houseboat on steroids. It's a closed-loop habitat, an interconnected web where energy, water, waste, and life constantly cycle, mirroring the natural systems that have kept Earth alive for billions of years. Early prototypes. What once seemed like a sci-fi vision is already taking shape around the world. Across continents, early prototypes are proving that floating cities can be more than just concept art. They can be functional, self-sustaining communities. Take Oceanics Busan in South Korea. Planned as the world's first large-scale floating city, it's designed to house 12,000 residents while producing zero waste and running entirely on renewable energy. Its hexagonal platforms interlock like puzzle pieces, each serving a different function, from housing to farming to recreation. With wave-resistant engineering and self-contained water and food systems, Oceanics Busan aims to be a blueprint for coastal cities everywhere. In the Maldives, where rising seas threaten to erase the nation within decades, an ambitious project is underway: the Maldives Floating City. Built in a 200-hectare lagoon, this development will accommodate around 20,000 residents. Its layout is inspired by coral patterns, a design choice that's both aesthetic and functional. The organic curves help naturally disperse wave energy, reducing strain on the structures. The project is a survival plan wrapped in architectural beauty. Then there's the Netherlands, a nation with centuries of water management expertise. In Amsterdam, neighborhoods like Schoenschip have transformed canals into thriving, fully functional communities. These small-scale floating neighborhoods aren't just experiments. They're everyday life for residents who generate their energy, manage their water, and live harmoniously on the water's surface. Each of these projects is a proof of concept, demonstrating different scales, climates, and cultural approaches to ocean-based living. Together, they form the first stepping stones toward a future where humans don't just adapt to rising seas. They embrace them as part of the urban landscape. Key takeaway number 2: land scarcity is pushing development to the water. In the world's most crowded cities, space has become the ultimate luxury. In places like Singapore and Hong Kong, land prices aren't just high, they're astronomical, measured in tens of thousands of dollars per square meter. Even with creative vertical development, there's a limit to how much you can build upward before infrastructure, congestion, and quality of life begin to strain. For island nations, the situation is even more pressing. There is no outskirts to expand into, no hinterland to develop. When the boundaries of your nation are defined by the coastline, you face a hard truth: you've run out of land. And for many, rising seas are steadily eating away at the little they have left. Floating cities offer a radically different path forward. First, they provide space without the environmental damage of traditional land reclamation, which often destroys marine habitats and alters coastal ecosystems. Instead of filling in the sea, these platforms float above it, preserving the life below. Second, they are inherently adaptable to rising seas. Unlike static coastal infrastructure, floating platforms rise and fall with the water, maintaining functionality even during extreme tides or storm surges. This built-in resilience makes them a long-term solution for climate-vulnerable regions. Third, they unlock new economic opportunities. A well-designed floating district could become a hub for international trade, marine research, tourism, or even offshore manufacturing. Imagine cruise ports doubling as floating marketplaces, or eco-resorts that generate their power and food while attracting visitors from around the globe. The truth is simple: the ocean is the last great frontier for urban expansion. For the first time in history, humanity has the tools to build there not as conquerors, but as careful, sustainable residents of the sea. The science and technology. Building a city that can float year-round in open water isn't just about putting houses on pontoons. It's about solving some of the toughest engineering challenges on Earth. A floating city must endure storms, high winds, shifting tides, and corrosive salt water, all while remaining stable, safe, and livable for thousands of residents. One breakthrough is the use of semi-submersible platforms, designed so most of their mass sits just below the waterline. This reduces the force of surface waves, allowing the city to ride out rough seas without constant rocking. Surrounding these structures are storm-resistant breakwaters, massive barriers, sometimes fixed, sometimes floating, that absorb wave energy before it reaches the city's core. The shape of the platforms themselves matters. Through hydrodynamic shaping, engineers design the edges to slice through water rather than resist it, reducing drag and stress on the structure during storms. Beneath the surface, smart anchoring systems use flexible mooring lines and adjustable tension to keep the city in place while still allowing gentle movement with tides and surges. Water management is just as crucial. Systems are built to recycle gray water from showers and sinks and purify black water from toilets, turning waste into safe, reusable water. Food production is woven into the city's design through integrated aquaponics and vertical farms, ensuring a steady supply of vegetables, herbs, and fresh fish right where people live. Energy comes from renewable sources, but storage is key. Floating battery farms store surplus solar, wind, and tidal energy to ensure constant power, even during cloudy days or calm seas. Together, these innovations make a floating city more than a vision. They make it a technological ecosystem, designed to survive and thrive in the planet's most challenging environment. Challenges and risks. For all their promise, floating cities face a daunting set of obstacles, the kind that could determine whether they remain experimental marvels or become a mainstream answer to climate and land scarcity. Storms and hurricanes are the most obvious threat. A city at sea must be engineered to survive the fury of Category 5 winds and waves as tall as small buildings. Breakwaters, hydrodynamic platforms, and semi-submersible designs help, but even the best engineering faces limits against nature's most violent forces. Survivability is not just about safety. It's about whether residents can feel secure calling such a place a home. Then there's the issue of legal jurisdiction. If a floating city is built in international waters, whose laws apply? Who handles policing, taxation, trade, or immigration? Maritime law offers some guidance, but large-scale permanent settlements push into uncharted legal territory. Without clear governance, these projects could become entangled in disputes between nations. Cost is another hurdle. Initial construction could run into the billions before economies of scale make it more affordable. The technology, materials, and labor for such ambitious builds aren't cheap, and that's before factoring in ongoing maintenance in a harsh marine environment. Finally, there's social adaptation. Convincing people to live permanently at sea isn't a purely logistical problem, it's psychological. Residents would need to embrace a lifestyle with new rhythms, limitations, and opportunities. Far from the conveniences and familiarity of land, cultural acceptance may prove as challenging as the engineering itself. If these challenges remain unsolved, floating cities risk becoming niche solutions, experimental outposts for the wealthy, researchers, or novelty tourism instead of a scalable global answer to the crises we face. Key takeaway number 3. This could redefine the concept of nation and city. Floating cities don't just challenge our engineering limits, they challenge our political imagination. If a settlement exists entirely at sea, who owns it? Who governs it? And could it one day stand as its nation? The idea isn't purely hypothetical. Some futurists envision seasteads, politically autonomous ocean states, free from the borders and bureaucracies of land-based nations. These could write their laws, establish unique economies, and even create new social contracts from scratch. In theory, a floating city could move like a cruise ship, relocating between jurisdictions to find the most favorable legal or economic environment. Others see a more pragmatic future, floating extensions of existing nations. In this model, a country like Singapore, the Maldives, or the Netherlands could add new floating districts to their territory, expanding living space and infrastructure without touching sensitive coastlines. This approach would avoid the murky questions of sovereignty while still offering adaptability as sea levels rise. But the possibilities raise deeper geopolitical questions. If a floating city can detach and relocate, could it become a mobile city-state? Could nations lease out floating territory to other countries, corporations, or even climate refugees? Would these ocean communities need their navies, or would they rely on alliances with land-based powers for defense? Floating cities could redraw more than coastlines. They could redraw the very concept of a map. The familiar boundaries we've taken for granted for centuries may blur as human habitation becomes more fluid, more mobile, and less tied to the permanence of land. Where the water starts, the map could change, and with it, the rules of nations, trade, and citizenship itself. The 2050 vision. By the middle of this century, the ocean could be dotted with vast, interconnected cities. A new civilization rising not from the land, but from the waves. Picture chains of floating cities linked together, forming ocean-based nations that stretch for kilometers, each platform serving a distinct role: residential, agricultural, industrial, cultural. These aren't isolated outposts. They're part of a global network, trading with one another and with land-based nations, connected by shipping lanes and high-speed marine transport. Their economies run entirely on renewable energy. Solar panels gleaming in the sun, wind turbines turning steadily in the sea breeze, tidal generators harnessing the constant push and pull of the ocean. With no permanent land footprint, these cities leave coastal ecosystems intact, offering a blueprint for growth without destruction. Ocean farming would be integrated into daily life, with kelp forests, mussel lines, and aquaponics farms providing fresh, sustainable food just meters from where it's consumed. Residents might shop at floating farmers markets or dine in restaurants serving seafood harvested hours before. In this vision, climate refugees displaced from shrinking coastlines and flood-prone regions could move seamlessly into ocean housing, not as exiles, but as citizens of thriving maritime communities. These cities could offer safety, opportunity, and cultural continuity in a world where land is increasingly scarce. By 2050, floating cities won't just be survival platforms. They could be vibrant hubs of art, science, and commerce. Destinations as appealing as Paris, Singapore, or New York, but with the sea as their foundation. They might host international festivals, oceanic sports leagues, and research institutes studying the very waters they rest upon. The horizon could hold more than just water. It could hold the next chapter of human civilization. Floating cities are more than an emergency backup plan. They could be the next evolution of human settlement. By 2050, they may not just save lives. They could create entirely new ways of living, working, and connecting with the planet. The ocean might be our greatest threat and our greatest opportunity. Subscribe for more future living deep dives and tell us in the comments, would you live in a floating city if it meant never worrying about floods again? Stay blessed and stay curious.